Okay. Yes. We just had the last part of the topic called as scenario planning. Those students who were not there yesterday, we completed external analysis. So we are just, I'm just completing today the last small topic remaining, that is scenario planning. I started in fact yesterday, but then we were out of time. So just to begin with scenario planning, um, we saw what is scenario planning yesterday. I just highlighted and our lecture got it. So scenario planning process is a continuous iteration process. Now, continuous iteration process means it keeps on changing. The scenarios keep on changing, and the components affecting the scenario keeps on changing. So, what are the steps? Explore external trends. I'd explained you. Frame your horizon and parameters. Build your scenarios. Define strategic choices. Build external flags and internal triggers. So the benefits of scenario planning. The scenario planning process provides several benefits for the organization, such as expanding current thinking and avoiding conformity of ideas, that clashing of ideas. The scenario planning process takes place in the following way. Okay, now let's talk about the first point, expanding current thinking and avoiding conformities of ideas. Now, scenario planning allows the organization to broaden its thinking beyond its current reality. So, what do you mean by this? Scenario planning will always tell the organization about how to think about the future, right? Because we are going to try to create a scenario. Like I told you example, yesterday I gave an example about FBI and USA. They always plan according to the worst case scenarios. So worst to worst, what can happen and what can be the outcomes. Their planning is according to that. Given the world's fastest changing nature, organizations must be careful not to fall into the trap of only following one line of thought. They should not follow only one line of thought, right? They should have many ideas coming in front of them, and accordingly, they must choose the best of the ideas, the best of the suggestions, and accordingly do the scenario planning. Practically, this implies that organizations should be careful to accept the current strategy and the decisions as the only truth. Scenario planning helps you avoiding group thinking, because while group thinking, everybody thinks in a different way, constructively encouraging non-conformity and help members involved in the process to broaden their perspectives and view of both the organization and the external operating environment. So what we are doing is we are removing that redundancy, right? That two people are thinking on the same parameters. Two people are thinking on the same outcomes. So here we need to take into account both the organization, that is the internal environment, and the external environment. For example, a chief human resource officer we spoke recently had to help his executive team to rethink business process that had been in place for decades as business was responding to COVID-19 pandemic. So here the HR had to set the reset button. He had to do some radical changes to put people back on track, bring the people to the new normal. His role was to ask difficult questions and pull the team out of the accepted normal. The scenario planning process. The process of scenario planning differs from method to method and from one organization to another. For the purpose of this article, we will explain a generic approach that highlights the central premises, that means the central theme, we can say, or the central, I said central theme of scenario planning. Now, what are these? I had just explained you yesterday. Explore external trends. I'm just repeating for those who have come today and yesterday they were not there. So I'm going to just brush up the points. In this step, companies utilize external data to identify macro trends that could potentially influence the business. So it involves exploring current market trends. What is happening in the market and how are we supposed to deal with the market situations? All right. And using available data to determine the relevance. Like, is the data matching the current trends or is the data matching only certain trends? Importantly, this step is not about creating new trends, but rather identifying the relevance of well researched trends and determining their possible impact on the organization. Now, which trend we are following? What are the factors affecting the trend? And what impact, what effect these trends will have on the organization? For instance, the aging population, and we spoke about this example yesterday. The aging population and decreasing population growth were explored by the retailer of a baby diapers in Japan and Germany. This led to a decision to diversify the product development into adult home care because the population of senior citizen was increasing and that of the babies were decreasing. To mitigate means to tackle the risk of diminishing returns. As I said, diminishing returns directly affects law of demand in the newborn market. Then frame your horizons and parameters. In this, we had given an example of healthcare where a healthcare system needs to get privatized and what would be the effect on or what would be the degrees of privatization and the impact on the operations of the company and also on the customers. So here they set a boundary to not explore political scenarios. Yes, frame your horizon means that you put a line, you divide, or you set a parameter where you will work only within that parameter. So in frame your horizons and parameters, in this case, in this example, they did not consider the political scenarios. Thus, it is an okay. They set a boundary not to explore political scenarios in the country, even though these would influence their scenarios. Instead, they focused more on specific questions related to their contest. So here, frame your horizon means put your boundary, and within that boundary, you will work. The next was we are building the scenarios. So there are three types of scenarios where we can build. One is the worst case scenarios. Yesterday we saw an example of e-commerce entry into a grocery retailer domain and what can happen. Then the best case scenario and the mid-range scenario. E-commerce enters the grocery retail domain and the need for a physical grocery store footprint diminishes. Consumers want online services and are prepared to pay more for the convenience of getting their groceries delivered. Fast-moving players with better technological capability flood the market and build a stronger distribution network to meet the online demands. So this is the worst case scenario. Worst to worst, what can happen? In the best case scenario, e-commerce has gained some traction in the grocery and retail market. There is a still need. Okay, that means e-commerce is little bit helping the grocery stores, but still there is more to work in e-commerce related to grocery stores. There is still a need for strong physical presence in the stores across the country. We can partner with third parties to meet the demand of the online consumers and use our local grocery stores as depot hubs that utilize our current logistics network to meet the demands. Mid-range scenario, e-commerce becomes an integral part of the business to complement the physical grocery store footprint. By enabling online options, we can expand our market to smaller towns. All right. We can even reach to the villages, smaller towns where it did not make sense previously to have a physical store by allowing deliveries and orders during the week to the consumers. So when you're building a scenario, we are building worst case scenarios, we are building best case scenarios, and we are building mid-range scenarios. All right. Scenario A and its implications. That means where are you going to apply? Scenario B, see, this is only one dimension, okay? Scenario B and implications, scenario C and implications, and scenario D implications. So we are having, see, if you see, these are the four quadrants. I don't know if you recall your mathematics. First quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. So in different areas or under different external environment conditions, how these scenarios are going to work. Then we saw define strategic choices, right? How are we going to group the strategic choices? Again, we saw an example of e-commerce, right? We are grouping pricing, capability and skills, logistics, and partnership. Then we are building external flags and internal triggers. The last step in the scenario planning process is identifying external flags and internal triggers. What can be the factors that we need to monitor when we are designing the scenarios? External flags are developed as specific events to watch out for. Like, we need to keep a watch. Like maybe we are trying to watch our competitors. They will tell us that the probability of a scenario occurring is increasing or decreasing. You have all have studied probability, and yesterday I gave you an example of if you toss a coin, you have two um, scenarios. Either you will get a head or you will get a tail. So we have two scenarios. So out of two possibilities, if you get head, then your probability becomes 1 by 2. And even if you get a tail, the probability becomes 1 by 2. So you have got 50% chances in the case of coins. Similarly, here, when we study the external flags, we get an idea up to how the probability will be, whether the probability of a scenario will increase or decrease. Internal triggers dictate a response to a flag that will help the organization systematically shift to prepare and move closer to the designed response. So, somewhat we will be very much near to the desired result. So, we need to keep a watch. We need to keep a tab on the external flag and the internal flags. For example, in a grocery example, a flag that could be identified for the worst case scenario is when new delivery partners receive significant funding, right? New delivery partners receive lots of money, and regular customers start switching to these options, right? By viewing these events, we can see that the worst case scenario is becoming more probable, right? Worst case scenarios probability is increasing because in this case, the distribution partners or the delivery partners are getting lots of funding, and the regular customers are shifting to these delivery partners. Now, suppose I go to Mr. A, he has got a grocery store. So when I see the delivery partners, instead of going to the store directly, I go to the delivery partner and I tell him to get my goods from that store itself. All right. So if the grocery retailer made the strategic choice to change pricing strategies so that he can make new strategies work. Now, benefits of scenario planning drives strategic thinking and practice, possibly to dig unexplored criterion, improves the ability to make key decisions, and improve knowledge about the organization and its future growth. So we have four factors of scenario planning. All right. It will further also help us to make good policies and programs for the organization. It can also help, now see, improves the ability to make key decisions, right? And strategic thinking and practices. It can also help the employees to work on the information which is available to them and to formulate certain scenarios. Okay. Now see, scenario planning can be rigid also, and it can be creative also. So what happens because of these two factors? Because of these two factors, the organization can develop new ideas and insights, and they will try. It will also help them to fix the firm's external environment. Now, furthermore, we always talk about a comfort zone and a challenging zone. The decision makers in the organization will come out of their comfort zone. And from the comfort zone, when they come into the fear zone, it will always help to grow their business. There will be a business growth, and they will try to learn and identify the macro environment. So, because of all this, they will have a broader vision and they'll be able to do their strategies quite well. Okay, just see. Scenario planning helps you navigate your company to more profitable avenues. It also helps to mitigate, that means tackle risk by identifying the biggest threats to future profitability. You can proactively implement strategies to de-risk your company. So your strategies can be in a such a way that they will help you to minimize the risk of the company. Learn where to allocate your resources, where you are required to put your resources, and when to back down from an investment, where you need to invest and where you don't need to invest, where you need to allocate your resources and where you need not allocate your resources. Be strategically and financially prepared for a worst case scenario and mitigate. Mitigate, again, I tell you, I'll write a word, and study. And study its potential impact. Identify positive and negative profitability factors in your business operations. Identify key issues and turn them into gains. Recognize and seize amazing opportunities. All right. Recognize and seize amazing opportunities. Learn how to mitigate the risk of your business of environmental factors outside your control. Speed up the planning process while making better decisions. Gain confidence in your decision making skills. Be ready for disruptive change and take advantage of it rather than being blindsided by it. Have your business strategy be more proactive rather than reactive. All right. So these are the advantages. Now, what can be the disadvantages? The biggest disadvantages of scenario planning has traditionally been the time and resources. Okay, time and resources. Now, before the advant means before the coming of scenario planning tools, modeling different hypotheticals took a tremendous amount of time, right? Modeling different hypotheticals means what can happen. It was just verbally said. We did not have those statistical tools to take care of this. Where we studied, modeling scenarios, we studied in Microsoft Excel, for example. Even a good scenario planning template is a daunting process. Daunting means for all but the most proficient Excel users, right? Daunting means a difficult process for everybody of us. So everyone even cannot use even Excel. These days, a wealth of scenario planning software tools have made the process more achievable for regular people, for regular employees, I'll say more than folks. Profit, now this is there. This is a software I'm telling you in case, in your interview, if they ask you scenario planning, what software? So we have Profit Frogs scenario planning software. This is good to know information. This is good to know information I'm giving you. See, I made it light. Profit Frog's scenario planning software is targeted to small businesses. We strip away a lot of complexities that some of the competitors include, right? Now, what is there? We are focusing on serving funded startups with complicated cap tables. Cap tables, I'll tell you what it is. It's just good to know information. This is an example I'm giving you. And shareholders and give mainstream business exactly the features they need. So it is tailor-made and none that they don't. So this software will help the factors of scenario planning according to the business. So that's the disadvantages. Now, example, Royal Dutch Shell. Shell has been using scenario planning since 1970s. The company's scenario team has been able to successfully model global trends and plan against them. So, what is happening in the macro environment? Shell's set of scenarios have helped the company anticipate means study, and adapt global business operations to the oil shocks of the 1970s. So it was Royal Dutch Shell is nothing but an oil company. Then what happened? The collapse of European communism, the Great Recession of 2008, right? Please study this, huh? Please go. If you're on Google, please study this. It's a good to know information. Great Recession of 2008 and other volatility means other factors which will have an impact on the organization. Now just see, I've given you two scenarios, shell scenarios. First of all, they invented something called as a sky scenario, imagining meeting the climate goals in 2015 Paris Agreement and the changes that would need to occur to mitigate climate change. So this was the scenario that is called as a sky scenario. They were imagining, now see, they're planning for the future. All right, worst case scenarios. Imagining meeting the climate goals of the 2015 Paris Agreement. Now, this was for the Paris Agreement, right? It's a good to know information. It is the current trend. The Paris Agreement and the changes that would need to occur to mitigate means tackle climatic change. Now, why they wanted to do this? Because they are an oil-based company. Rethinking the 2020s, three scenarios that explain the long-term ramifications. Long-term ramifications means long-term impact. Long-term impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So this is how they made the scenarios. All right. Any difficulty in scenario planning, please? Any difficulty in scenario planning? I have given current examples in scenario planning. Any difficulty? Please speak up. Do you have any difficulty? I am sharing the next screen with you, which is analyzing the industry. One minute. Have we finished this internal environment? No, we haven't. Yeah, we haven't. One moment. No, we have not. Yes. One moment, huh? Yes. All right. Let's see. Analyzing company's internal environment, and then after this chapter is over, then I will be taking Porter's, because Porter is very important, and we need to study the internal environment, and then we'll study the overall industrial environment. All right. Now, what is the internal environment analysis, and why do we need to do that? Is the PPT clear to you people? Yes? Yes? Can you people hear? Can you hear me? Nobody's answering today. What is the problem? Nishi,
Yes,
this is the
ma'am, you are audible.
first lecture you have joined. Nishi, this is the first lecture of strategic management you have joined. Aniket, this is the first lecture you have joined. All right. I had given something on the weekends to do. Are you all doing it? Are you all doing it? Okay. What is the internal environment? The internal environment analysis or internal analysis is the process of assessing. Assessing means studying the internal factors of the organization. So it is internal resources and capabilities of an organization, and to know its strengths and weaknesses. The organizational internal factors such as goals, policies, resources, structure, culture are the source of strength and weaknesses. All right. Now, all these factors, internal factors, will somewhere go and formulate the strength and the weaknesses of the company that resides means, or they are the part of, okay, part of different functional units such as HR, marketing, finance, production, accounting, and R&D. R&D is research and development. Internal, one moment. Internal strength and weaknesses, together with the potential opportunities and threats, and a clear mission statement, provides a base provides a base for a sound objective and strategy formulation. So we have the internal environment and the factors of the internal environment, which are distributed in each and every functional unit of the organizations. Now, what are the functional units? HR, marketing, finance, production, accounting, and R&D. So internal strength and the weaknesses together with the potential opportunities and threats together constitutes a strong base for strategy formulation. Okay. The internal environment analysis seeks to give means it answers the following questions. The first question, one minute, following questions. Now, what are they? How well the current strategy is working? Is it good? Is it giving us positive results? What is the current situation? How are we doing? How is the growth curve of the organization? Are we in profits? Right? If the organization is profitable in nature, what is the percentage of profits? Then, if we are suffering losses, what is the percentage of losses? What are our strengths and weaknesses? That becomes our internal environment. And what are the opportunities and threats? That becomes the external environment. And how many resources are available? What's wrong with this slide? Okay. Resources refers to all the materials available in our environment which are technological, accessible, economical, feasible, and culturally sustainable. Just see, technologically accessible. That means, okay, technology is available to us. Economically feasible. Economically feasible means we are in a position to buy those goods, right? When we talk about a project, suppose if I want to go to a very big makeup artist, and if I check her, just a minute, and if I check her, what you say, her fees, they should be economically feasible for me. Then culturally sustainable. Culturally, is it going to stand? Is it going to sustain and help us to satisfy our needs and wants? Example, capital, skilled employees, and technology. Analyzing companies' resources and competitive position. First of all, we need to know what is a resource and what is capability. Now let's talk about what is capability in an organization. Simply put, organizational capabilities are the collective skills, expertise, and alignment of the people in your company, right? Now, whatever resources you have, you should align it in such a way that everything in the organization moves in one direction. Competencies tend to be at an individual level. Competencies means what skill sets you have and where best you can get placed in the organization with those skill sets. For example, a person can be a very good marketeer, so we'll put him in the marketing department. Some employees may be very good in finance, so we'll put him in the finance, right? So the right person for the right job. Competencies tend to be at an individual level, while capabilities span across an organization. What are you capable of? What can you do? Organization capabilities are critical yet intangible assets that cannot be duplicated. For example, if somebody is doing a very good mehndi, all right, right, that is an inborn talent. That is the core competency of that individual. I just cannot copy her talent. No, it is intangible. It is her domain. I cannot, even if I try, I cannot do that mehndi with the same precision and the accuracy. All right. So here, organization capabilities are critical yet intangible assets that cannot be duplicated. Is it clear? Is it clear? Now, okay, this slide I'll take later on. Now let's see the concept of internal appraisal. Internal appraisal means our internal environment. The concept of internal appraisal in the process of strategy formulation, the objective of internal appraisal is to produce a picture of the organization, right? We do some organizational branding. Now, what type of picture we are producing? What are we highlighting? We are highlighting the resources and capabilities which provides a segmented and integrated internal perspective of the strengths and weaknesses of the firm as a whole. All right. So, in the process of strategy formulation, the objective of internal appraisal is to produce a picture of the organization, its resources and capabilities, which provides a segmented and integrated internal perspective of the strengths and weaknesses of the firm as a whole. So we are projecting our resources, and we are highlighting our capabilities, and we also highlight our strengths. See, never highlight your weakness to someone else, even in the organization. The organization weakness should never be highlighted. Now see how it works. All right, how it is going to work. It is your organization, right? We are over here. Then it is our market, right? So we have the current market, we have the customers, we have the growing or declining market. Like the market is either growing or the market is either declining. We have the market size and we have the new markets. All right, current markets, new markets, customers, market size, and growing and declining. Then the industry. What happens in the who is industry means you're associated with whom in the external environment. Power of suppliers or vendors. We have our current competitors, we have new competitors, we have competitive rivalry, we have substitute products, we have power of buyers. All right. This all points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they constitute your industry. Then we have our operating environment. We have economic indicators, right? Social and cultural shifts. That's why I use the word cultural sustainability, technological accessibility, economic feasibility. So, three different words to describe three different factors in which we are going to operate. Then, political winds, right? Political winds mean changes in the policies of the government, demographic movements. As I had given you an example of in scenario planning, in Japan and Germany, the newborn babies percentage is going down and the senior citizens percentage is rising. So that is a demographic shift. Then we have the global forces, like what are the global policies. Then we have the ecological and natural issues because we are dealing with the environment. Is it clear? Is this diagram clear? Yes? Please answer. Okay. Now we come to the four components of internal analysis. Now, what are the four components of internal analysis? Internal analysis means the internal environment. Okay, we are studying and we are doing the internal analysis. So I'll talk about. I'll write a word environment also for you. Conducting a SWOT analysis is easily the most common approach to completing an internal analysis. Always remember, as the last lecture, for students who are not there in the last lecture, we studied how we do an analysis of the environment. We did SWOT analysis, which is totally related to the internal environment. Then we had ETOP, quest and pest analysis, that were used to determine the external environment. All right, for those students who are not there for lectures, I'm just highlighting how we are relating internal environment, that is internal analysis, and external analysis. So conducting a SWOT analysis is easily the most common approach to completing on internal analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The internal component of SWOT analysis specifically looks at your organization's core strengths and weaknesses. Okay, now this out of SWOT, S and W are our internal components. Then other five internal components are, which are interrelated. Control environment. The control environment sets the tone of an organization, influencing the control conscious of its people. So some factors in the environment or some factors in the internal environment of the organization needs to be controlled. Risk assessment, right? You just go, we can just cannot go on taking risk. The risk what we take needs to be a calculated risk. So risk assessment, then control activities. What type of activities can be controlled? Information and communication and monitoring. So we have five more interrelated components: control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring. Now, the six areas of internal environment are what you call as the six M's of internal environment are man, that is labor, marketing, machinery, management, money. All right, I know money. I've put money again here. Money and miscellaneous. Miscellaneous means those factors are very small and you cannot give them an individual existence. So we try to put them into one basket. That is miscellaneous. So framework, sorry, framework for internal appraisal, internal environmental appraisal, all right? Organization behavior. Organization behavior, here we will try to study the different models of organization behavior. Then we will try to study the human behavior in terms of emotional quotient, intelligent quotient, then their belief systems, their value systems, then how they perceive things, the perception, the attitude, strength and weaknesses, capabilities, synergistic effect. I'll come to this, I'll explain you in detail. Competencies, the right person for the right job, and the competitive advantage. Competitive advantage means this company has this factor, so my company is having X, two X factors. All right, that is a competitive edge. Now just see, in a dynamic organization, a moment please. In a dynamic organization, what can be studied? We have, see, the structural changes. Yes, we can have a structural change in the organization. We have excess capacity. We have too many people to work, surplus, what we call it. Then something called as mergers and acquisitions. Then environmental concerns. Then less protectionism. We'll come to this. Then changing the customer needs. The customer needs are very dynamic. The company needs to allocate their resources in that direction. Then technological discontinuities, then emergence of trading blocks, say the policies change, the governmental policies change, or to be more precise, the export import policies are changing. Then the global competition, then the deregulation. Deregulation means one rule is followed and then that it gets deregularized, and then we need to follow the other rule. So this is how the organization dynamics works. So organization dynamics takes part, I'm just telling you good to know information, takes care of all these factors. Now, tangible resources. Tangible resources are the easiest to identify and evaluate. Financial resources and physical assets are identified and valued in the firm's financial statements. All those students who are doing finance, they know these things better. Intangible resources are largely invisible, but over the time become more important to the firm than tangible assets because they can be the main source of competitive advantage, right? Competitive advantage means why is my company better than the other company? That is competitive advantage. Such intangible resources includes, now, see this reputational assets. Okay, I'm using certain words where you need to know, understand those words. And in the interview, you need to speak those words. Include reputational assets such as brands and images, and technological assets, that is the proprietary technology. Like there are certain softwares companies are making. A very good example I can give you the HR software, what we have, the Grey HR software, like it is a company, Grey HR software is a company which is based in Bangalore, right? But majority of the industries, you can say, I can tell you 90 to 95% of the industries are using the Grey HR software. So proprietary technology, and this is know-how, means I can say, to be more precise, the technical know-how. Technical know-how means to know some technologies. For example, BA students, they need to have some technical know-how like Power BI, then Python, cloud computing. That is technical know-how. Then your organizational capabilities. See, we have two type of capabilities: an individual capability and your organizational capability. Right? Individual capabilities means yes, you can do the job, and then eventually you will develop your capacity also to do the job. So capacity and capability go hand in hand. So organizational capabilities are used to refer to a firm's capacity for undertaking a particular productive activity. Our interest is not in capabilities per se. Now, per se becomes a French word, means our interest is not in the in the capabilities, but in the capabilities relative to other firms. All right. Now, what does this mean? The industry, the organization knows the capacity and the capability of the individual. But, however, the organization will not be interested in the capabilities of one individual, right? Their capabilities are in what you say, in comparison to the other firms. Like if it's my firm, I'll say what capabilities my firm has in comparison to Mr. X's firm. So here we are trying to develop, we are trying to study the capabilities and the capacities of the organization. We will use we will use the functional classification approach to identify the firm's capabilities. Now, see, a functional classification identifies the organizational capabilities of each of the principal functional areas. Now, what type of functional areas will all organization have? First is our human resources, employees. This is one of the functional areas. If I want, I will put here one. Technically, this could fall underneath your organization resources, but it's worth separating human resource to its own category. Now, why do we say this? Right? Nobody will exist, no organization will exist without human capital, right? Human capital is of prime importance. The organizational existence is okay. Then, what data are we going to use? Very important. The second point is the data. Sorry. Okay. The second point is the data. What data are we using? What data? And how we are using the data, and from where we are getting the data. The first is we are collecting the data through the employee surveys. What do your employees say your organization does well and where you must improve, right? So we are doing an employee survey. That means we are giving them a set of questions, and then we are asking each and every employee to fill that questionnaire. Survey needs to be from within the previous 12 months. Like it should not be very old. Then the most important now is the customer surveys. Internal surveys we have done. Now let's see what our customers have to say. What do customers love about your organization? Do they love the product or the services? How do you best meet their needs? Again, these surveys must be from within at least previous 12 months. The data should not be old. Then we have an internal and external analysis, is also known as strategic analysis. Strategic analysis means we will have a clear picture of the organization's current states, right? So what will employee survey tell? One minute, huh? Okay, sorry, this is, I've repeated this. Mm, one moment, huh? I've just repeated this. I just need to delete this, not required. Okay, so what they tell, business strategy of record plus current performances. So what we are trying to have from the internal and external analysis, we study the business strategy of records plus current performances. So having your previous strategy plan and performance data to reference is always helpful as you complete your strategic internal analysis process. That means when we have to complete the internal process, we need to have the previous strategic plan and the previous performance data in order to complete a strategy and internal analysis process. So the previous data plays a very important role. All right. Just to highlight a list of resources, because when we talk about internal analysis, it is based on important parameters, that is a list of resources and a list of capabilities. All right. I'm just highlighting what are they. For those who are joining in and coming back, pay attention, please. Your tangible and intangible resources may directly influence your internal strategic strengths, weakness, problems, constraints, and uncertainties. Then your capabilities or lack of capabilities are helpful to reference and identify internal strategic strengths. Capabilities tell us about how strong our strategy is or how weak our strategy is. Is our strategy going to create any problems, uncertainties, and constraints? Everyone is clear up till here? Any difficulty you have? Any difficulty? Any difficulty? Any difficulty? Anisha, Abhijit, Navdeep, Renuka, Prasad, Sakshi, Shailaja. Shailaja, you come for the first time? Shailaja, are we clear till here? Do you have any problems in understanding internal environment? Yes? Do you have any issues? Please answer. Please answer. Do you have any issues? Nobody's answering today. Why? You're all so busy. Okay. Now we have certain questions we need to consider for our internal analysis. What do you do best? What do we do best at an individual level and at a team level? What do our customers value most from our organization? What do our customers, okay, 1 minute, I have repeated this question. Then how do we uniquely serve our customers? What are our company's resources, assets, intellectual property, and people? How are we using our resources well? Where do we need to be more efficient? How do our employees or shareholders perceive us? How are we meeting our employees' needs? Then, what are our organization's core capabilities and how do we need to improve upon? So, these are the most important questions when we are doing the internal analysis. Then, what are the tools we will need to consider? The first important is the SWOT. Conducting a SWOT analysis is, is easily the most common approach to complete an internal analysis. Now you know what SWOT stands for. SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. The internal component of SWOT analysis specifically looks, right? See, the internal component of SWOT analysis specifically looks at your organization's core strengths and weaknesses are the internal component. The rest two components we look at as an external entity. Is it clear? Are we clear? Any difficulty up till now? Now we are going to come to how to conduct a thorough internal or corporate analysis. Okay, we have got different methods. We are going to do gap analysis, we are going to do OCAT, and we have got core competency analysis. I'm just highlighting because once I start with this topic, I need to continue. Then we have SWOT. SWOT is everywhere. It's a indispensable part of our strategic management. SWOT, right? SWOT will be used everywhere because two components of SWOT are in internal environment and two components of SWOT are in the external environment. Then we'll do the process of internal environment. Then we'll have identification of unique resources. Then methods of internal analysis, how we do, what approaches we have. So please don't miss your classes. However, at least listen to what I'm trying to tell you. Is it clear? Up till here, do you have any difficulty? Any difficulty, please? Yes? Please answer. Nobody wants to answer today. Nobody wants to answer. Everyone is clear? Everyone is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you are answering. How about your SIPs? How are they going on? Rupali? Kiran? Kiran Bagul?
Yes, ma'am. It will complete in next week.
Yeah, where are you doing, Kiran? Shailaja? Okay, fine. All right. I'll stop for the day. Thank you very much for joining the session. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.